I mean, it's one of the most shocking things I've ever seen. A guy in a car negotiating with an older girl for the younger girl. She looked about 8 years old to me. And it's just happening out on the street. LA is now the world capital of child sex trafficking. Hi everyone, welcome to the Steve Hilton Show. We got a very interesting guest coming up, Don Wagner. He's running for Secretary of State of California. How many times do you hear people talk about how we need to fix our elections, stop the cheating? Well, here's the man who wants to do it. He's joining us later. Jen Horn is here with us today. But we start the show. It's Monday morning. I'm taping this, December the 15th. A really, really serious string of awful headlines in the last 48 hours, starting with the shooting in Brown University, and the news this morning that the suspect is still at large. What a terrifying situation that is for everyone in the area. You know, you think about these things very personally. My son is just applying to college. That's one of the colleges he's hoping to apply to. And everyone thinks about their own connection to these issues. And it's just another reminder of how we have a lot of sickness in our society. And there's a very serious issue we have to address. And it feels like there's an acceleration of some of that. And of course, you see it in some of the other stories we've seen in Australia, the terrible news coming out of there. Bondi Beach, one of the most iconic places in Australia, world famous, in Sydney, and a totally evil terror attack targeting Jewish people there. I've been getting messages from people who were there, friends of mine. It's just an absolute nightmare for everyone involved. But in amidst all the horror, of course, there was that incredible video we saw of the hero who got hold of one of the gunmen in the middle of their killing spree. Absolutely amazing bravery there, which is an inspiration. And then here in Los Angeles, I'm taping this in Los Angeles, so I'll get to that in a second, why I'm here. The news overnight that Rob Reiner, legendary Hollywood director, murdered, it now seems, by his own son. Him and his wife killed by their son. That's what it looks like. That's the person who's been arrested and is in jail right now. Obviously, an incredibly messed up, troubled young person. He's 34 years old, I believe. I mean, what an unbelievable situation. It just feels like this very bleak, this set of headlines. But the thing I'm really reminded of is that as we've been covering this and people have been talking about it, there's a phrase that comes up a lot you've heard. The word evil and unspeakable evil and these sorts of terms are thrown around. Of course, that's true. But the reason I'm in Los Angeles is actually to highlight and lay out my plan to address something that really is unspeakable evil and isn't just a one-off incident like these three that we've seen in the last few days. It's something that's been going on for years here in LA, which is the unspeakable evil, the sick, horrific evil of child sex trafficking. LA is now the world capital of child sex trafficking, by far the biggest in America. And according to those who've been following this for a long time, the world capital. Can you believe that? It shames us. And it's not just LA, it's a specific street in LA, Figueroa Street. And it's a stretch of Figueroa Street known as the Blade. Goes on for about 50 blocks. I was there on Friday night to see for myself what's going on with a non-profit run by pastors who have heroically for many, many years have been working to rescue girls from this vile trade, sex trafficking. So I'll describe for you what I saw driving up and down for miles on the street there, on the main road, not hiding in some back street, not in some dingy little house or apartment. Right there, brazenly, openly on the street, I guess by the time you add it all up, hundreds of girls being sold for sex. Of course, we're driving. We're not talking to them. We're trying to identify specific girls to rescue. That was the mission that I joined that night. They do this many times throughout the year, this organization. They've rescued hundreds of girls, 150, 200 every year they rescue. And the ages are so shocking. The typical age range for the girls they rescue, 12 to 14 years old, girls sold for sex. Some as young as 11. That's regular. But you get more extreme. I mean, I saw a girl I mean, it's one of the most shocking things I've ever seen. You saw a guy in a car negotiating with an older girl, the older girl negotiating for the younger girl. She looked about 8 years old to me. I mean, and it's just happening out on the street in LA. And it's been going on for years. And now I want to get to who these girls are. They are American girls. You hear that term sex trafficking, you think, well, is this girls being smuggled across the border by gangs and so on? There are gangs involved, that's for sure. The pimps, and I was learning about the networks and how that all works. But these are American girls, the majority from foster homes here in California, but some are traded from right across the country here to Figueroa Street in Los Angeles. American girls, there's a story that captures what's going on here. This is recent, just in the last few weeks. A 14-year-old girl from Orange County. She bought some drugs, bought some weed, owed $45, posted online on one of her social media accounts that she owed $45. Within hours, some sick guy, as part of the criminal trafficking gang, contacted her, said, I can help you get the money. They met up. Within 2 hours of meeting this guy, this girl was on the street, was on Figueroa Street in LA, being sold for sex. Within 2 hours of meeting, this guy said, I can get you the money you need. Took her up here from Orange County, had her change into prostitute clothing, put her on the streets, 14 years old. Now, she was rescued after about 5 days, thankfully. The parents put out an alert. The organization I work with is based in Orange County. They tracked her down, they found her, they rescued her in partnership with the police. Do you know what happened in that 5-day period? She was sent out to have sex, 6 or 7 times a night. A 14-year-old girl. And she was traded 3 times in that 5-day period. Different gangs who saw her as a commodity that they could make money off of. I mean, it's just it's absolutely horrific, and it's been going on for years. So today I laid out my plan for doing something about it, because this is a political choice. Remember that this is all going on in California, run by Democrats who never stop lecturing us about compassion and social justice and gender equality, for goodness sake. What are they doing about it? What's Gavin Newsom doing about this? It's been going on for years on his watch. He's been lieutenant governor and governor for nearly 16 years. And this is getting worse. This vile sex trafficking trade, children being sold for sex. I mean, the guys lining up their car just on the side streets off Figueroa, lining up like it's fast food, like a drive-through. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Just shameless, brazen, open. What have they done? What's Gavin Newsom done about it? What's Karen Bass done about it? Well, any of these people. Kamala Harris, when she's Attorney General, you know what she did about it? She downgraded buying children and selling children for sex from a serious and violent crime. Republicans in the state legislature have been fighting for years to clean that up. And then just now, Scott Wiener, just in the last couple of years, passed a bill that decriminalized loitering with an intent to engage in prostitution. Now that makes it harder for the police and other authorities to actually stop this trade. It's unbelievable. AB 495 that was just passed, which actually weakens the safeguards for children and the guardianship. Remember that more than half of these girls that are being sold for sex come out of the foster care system. It's just unbelievable. So here's what we're going to do when I'm governor. Number one, we're going to overturn that legislation, the Scott Wiener bill. The disgusting consequences of that have to be stopped. And if the legislature won't do it, then I will sue to make that happen. And AB 495 as well. We got to get the law in the right place on this. Secondly, we need a total overhaul of the foster care system. The fact that you've got more than half the girls coming out of foster care, these are state-run organizations, is part of the state care system. And yet this is what's happening. And 3 out of 4 of the girls that are rescued actually go back to their pimps. How bad must the foster home be? I mean, unbelievable. We need a total overhaul. We need to end contracts with foster homes that are letting girls down and creating such an unsafe environment that they'd rather be out on the streets with their pimps. It is just unacceptable. We need to have much tougher criminal penalties for this. The Johns that are picking up these girls and buying them for sex with total impunity barely get, if they even get prosecuted, they get a totally light sentence, hardly any get jail time. That needs to change. And we need a surge in law enforcement to stop this. I'm calling today for the National Guard to be brought in. We need to actually have a serious effort with law enforcement right across the board, state, federal. We need federal sex trafficking courts, because this is a network. There's so much we can do if we just have the right attitude. The resources need to be prioritized. We need to surge resources. We need to tell prosecutors to prosecute. We need to take this seriously. This is totally unacceptable. I will not accept it. As governor, I will do everything in my power to stop it. You can read my plan at stevehiltonforgovernor.com, see all the details there. And I want your support on this, because I know that you could say, well, compared to all the other things we talk about, gas prices and taxes and rent and housing costs and all the rest of this affects a small number of people. But every single one of these girls, I saw them on Friday night. It shames us. It shames all of us. It shames the state of California. It shames the Democrats who've been in charge and let this happen. And it's got to end. And that's my commitment to you. All right, Jen Horn is here. We were just reminiscing is the wrong word. I don't know, like missing. I don't know what the hell the word is, because we stopped the other night at an amazing place in Burbank. I know we're going to get to the serious politics, but Jen Horn, the greatest thing you've done for me, among many great things, is introduced me to a wonderful historic and iconic place in Burbank called the Smokehouse, where they have the best vodka martinis. It's a kind of, it's right by the studios, and all the kind of Rat Pack legends used to go there for drinks. And now we go there for drinks. And I was there without you for the first time,
I was
which
so
is
sad.
heartbreaking.
But
I know.
you know what? I give you a pass because you actually tried to get me, and I was actually recording something else. I was actually recording another show with our buddy Grant Stinchfield. And so when I was done with it, I looked and I saw I had missed calls from you. I'm like, oh no. And then I saw Smokehouse and I called you right back, but I think I missed my window. So at least you attempted to get me there. So you know what? Vince Stephen will celebrate next time.
Exactly. So now that serious stuff is out of the way.
I know.
Have you
Please,
got any
real
news? Yeah, exactly. Anything going on in California?
Huge stuff going on. It is amazing. This time of year, I'm usually, I think we expect things to slow down, but certainly that's not the case when it comes to terror attacks. And I mean, we had the shooting at Brown University a few days ago. We had the terror attack in Sydney against the Hanukkah celebration. We had our U.S. service members in Syria attacked by ISIS. And now here in Los Angeles, Steve, this was a huge story. Bill Asaley, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, Kash Patel, FBI Director, all coming together to confirm what was a very real plot against Los Angeles on New Year's Eve. Apparently, this group called the Turtle Island Liberation Front, TILF, they had an idea to blow up 5 different targets in and around LA and Orange County at the stroke of midnight on New Year's Eve.
This year, this like days, basically days away from now.
2 weeks away, absolutely. And so thankfully there was a tip to an FBI hotline, and that resulted in an investigation. This group was actually going to build these IEDs in the desert and test them out in a remote area where they thought they wouldn't be seen. And thankfully, the FBI got wise to it. They were able to bring drones out. They were surveilling them out in the middle of the desert sun, trying to build these devices and set them off. And they were able to arrest them. 4 of them were arrested there. 1 other was arrested in New Orleans in conjunction with this group. But not only were they going to, it's very unclear. I was trying to figure out what exactly those 5 targets were, if they were going to be nightclubs or Disneyland. I mean, you just don't know what the big targets would be. And apparently it was 2 unnamed companies that are very heavily into AI and new technologies. So they haven't named those companies, but that was 2 of the targets they believe. They also said something about ICE agents and ICE vehicles in and around Los Angeles and LA County. So, or excuse me, Orange County. So though they had some, I think we'll find out more about what these targets were, but certainly it's scary. And I'm glad that the FBI was there. And it makes you wonder, if they hadn't switched gears to go back to looking for real terrorists instead of Republicans, would they have even caught these guys a couple of years ago?
And going after Catholics as they
Correct.
were under Biden,
Right.
and parents. Exactly. Amazing. Sounds like that's fantastic police work from the FBI. And again, so many times we see the really important role of the public in spotting things and calling them in. It just happens time and time again. Wow, that's really so. It sounds like there's a political motivation here of some kind.
Yeah, this group is pro-Palestinian. They are anti-government, anti-capitalist, and very, very far left, obviously extreme far left.
Wow, well, that's an amazing story.
It is. And also it kind of, I think I can't remember if we talked about it here or not, but I covered pretty extensively the terror attack in San Bernardino 10 years ago. And it just to underscore what you said about the role of whistleblowers, the difference between what happened on December 2nd, 10 years ago, and what could have happened on December 31st in just 2 weeks. It shows you how much personal responsibility we have in the system. We have to be paying attention. We have to be doing the right things, and we have to get through to the right people to stop this. And we all have a role to play. We all have to keep our eyes open.
All right, next up, what do you got?
Another topic for you is Kamala Harris and Karen Bass. We have some kickoffs, apparently, Steve. I can't believe you don't have your party hat on. Let's start with Care Bear, shall we? Because she's officially in a race. So Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, she has a couple of challengers running against her. Probably most seriously is Austin Butner, who I think is maybe the world's most boring candidate. Sorry, Austin. But he is running against Karen Bass. She had not officially hard launched her campaign. And Steve, she did that this past weekend. And what did she do to celebrate? Well, she talked about how on day one, you're going to love this. On day one of her administration, she made it an emergency to take on the homelessness crisis. And guess what? She said that it is down by, 3% or 5%, whatever she was celebrating, and talking about how that this is kind of mission accomplished and that they're just going to continue their great work with homelessness, when all of us know what a lie that is. First of all, it is very difficult to actually count accurately the homeless population, but also, Steve, the amount of people that have disappeared off of the official homeless count. Actually, it's less of a number than the people who have died on the street. She lost more to people dying on the street than she did to getting anybody in a home.
It's unbelievable. It's so shameless the way she kind of pretends it's all going great.
Yeah.
What's her kind of pledge for the more? Is it more of the same? Was there any kind of acknowledgement that people aren't happy with the results?
Well, no new actionable items, just that she's going to continue the work that she's been doing already. There's very little detail that she gave at her launch event. But here's what was funny. Afterwards, a journalist, I think it was probably a local independent journalist, because I don't know if anybody with the news media, it wasn't somebody I recognized with the news media that I know around town, asked her about the very question that I brought up to you. And that is, how many people died and actually never made it off the streets, but that you're not counting them anymore. She did not know what to do. She did the Karen
Oh, I
Bass
saw that.
freeze.
That's an amazing piece of video.
She gave them that goofy smile until one of her staffers came and kind of pulled her away. And the thing about Karen Bass, and there's so many scandals to talk about with her, the amount of money that has just disappeared from taxpayers and never gone to actually help people on the streets, that just go into these NGOs that fund all of these projects. I mean, the stories with her and her corruption really run deep, but the fact that she is so unable to even come up with a solid explanation for some of the stuff that she's asked about, you would think somebody would be working with her. She really could be one of the worst candidates out there. And it doesn't seem like it matters when the machine gets behind her. You would think that there would be someone very serious in this race trying to challenge her with all the blood in the water when it comes to the Palisades fire and her mismanagement of almost every crisis we have in the city. But she'll probably win again.
It's completely broken, that sort of feedback loop, as it were, of
Yeah.
you get elected, you do certain things. If you do a good job, you're rewarded. If you don't, you're kicked out. That seems to be gone. I mean, and this guy, I mean, it's Austin Butner who's running, and then there's a far left person, isn't there? But who's the far left person? Is she on the city council? I couldn't recall.
She is not on the city council, and I'm totally forgetting her name, but she, I think, has a decent chance. She's young, she's energetic, she's got kind of that same message as Zohran Mamdani. She's very...
Yes, I saw her video, her launch video. It was good.
It was a good video, and it had some energy to it. So when you look at boring Austin Butner and you look at terrible Karen Bass, you go, well, is she really now the best candidate in the race who's promoting Democrat socialism? I don't know, but we need somebody who's sensible that could get into this race. It doesn't have to be a Republican. It just needs to be somebody that's going to actually take on the needs of LA.
I know, and I mean, this is why Rick Caruso should run for mayor of LA, because I think, I've said this to him directly. He ran before. He's known around the city and LA County more broadly, and he's demonstrated his commitment to LA, and I
Yeah.
think that sort of pragmatic, his slogan last time was "Clean up LA," I believe, and like, my goodness, that's what needs to happen. I mean, every time I come here, I mean, I just was out when it's particularly bad because I was out, as I spoke about earlier in the show, on Figueroa Street on Friday night, um, with a nonprofit and pastors who were rescuing girls who had trafficked for sex. Absolutely, I mean, sick, evil stuff that I witnessed. But I was out there this morning doing a press conference on it, and and you can see firsthand. I was out on the street. By the way, in broad daylight, 9:30 in the morning. Behind me in my shot were prostitutes on the street corner, young girls, like, and Monday morning, 9:30 a.m. But the squalor all around, the squalor, it's just so shameful that we have, and everywhere you go in LA, and this is the face we're going to present to the world, just filthy, stinking trash everywhere. Even when the homeless people are moved on, the encampments, I mean, it's just unbelievable. This is the second city of America, and the state that it's in, and there's no accountability. This woman, honestly, she's a
And the
disaster.
world is coming. The world is coming for the Olympics. And I'll tell you just two quick things from my program today. Actually, I interviewed a gentleman. He's just getting started. His name is Raul Claros. He's running for city council, District 1, in the area of MacArthur Park, Hancock Park, Koreatown. He's challenging Eunice Hernandez. And he made the commitment. First of all, he said, I'm challenging all of the ideology from the Democrat Socialists of America. I don't know if he's Republican. I think he's a Democrat, is what I think he is, but just a more moderate, intelligent Democrat. And so he made the commitment that if he wins this election, he is going to bring a trailer. Reminded me of something you might do, Steve, just crazy enough to be fun. He's going to take his trailer and he's going to park it in MacArthur Park if he wins this race. And he commits that he will not leave until the problems in that area are solved. He said there's just no light of day for the homelessness, for the drugs that run through that park. And he said, I'm going to stay there with my fog lights on at night to bring light to it. And he also brought up the sex trafficking that happens in and around that park. And he said, that's really what prompted him to make the decision to be there. He said, I'm going to hold every meeting here as a city councilman. I will live here. I will sleep here until the problems are solved. Do you think any elected official in Los Angeles would make that commitment today?
They don't care about actually solving problems. It's all politics, and the machine puts them there. I mean, it's just, it's a scandal. But there's another election story that popped up that caught your eye. Our dear friend, what's this about?
Mama Kamala. Mama Kamala is getting ready to run for president, Steve, just like we thought. Here's the thing. I am grateful that she is not in the race for governor in 2026. I honestly just don't think I could stomach it. It's not that I feel threatened by her. I just don't know if physically I could handle Swalwell, Porter, and Harris in the same race. It's just a lot to handle. But she is apparently, according to Axios this morning, putting together her 2028 campaign. And she is starting to go after, here's where it gets good. And you and I have predicted this for a while. If it's Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris going up against each other on a primary stage, prepare yourself for fun and fireworks, because these two know each other's inner secrets. They know what's going on. They know each other's dirt. And according to Axios' reporting, Kamala is actually starting to sniff around Gavin's donors. And so when it starts to become money and you start to put the pressure on people saying, how can you support a white guy when here I am, a black woman looking to be president, it's going to be really tough for Democrat donors, I think, to make the decision as to who to support, even though she's a terrible candidate.
I mean, what is her argument? Like, oh, I mean, well, actually, we know what it is, which is I would have been fine if I had more time, and that's why she called the thing at her memoir 107 days. But who thinks that for real? Like, more time would have been worse, surely.
Worse. She would have, I mean, she was burying herself every single day. And the thing that always gets me about leaders, and I may have talked about this with you before, But we are surrounded by a group of people who just make excuses for themselves and never take ownership of a problem. And that's what I think we need. We need someone who is a true leader around us, because Karen Bass will tell you, well, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that, I couldn't. There's always an excuse as to why people were suffering after the Palisades fire. The same thing with Gavin Newsom, always blaming Trump. With Kamala Harris, she blamed the American people and today's Democrat for not being ready to support her and Pete Buttigieg as a ticket. She blames those people for making her choose Tim Walz, who we know is just an absolute disaster. And then now she's blaming the fact that she had no time to run this race. Believe me, she had all the time that she needed, and she had the wind against her back, and she was not able to pull it off because she had no unique ideas, no policy. She didn't want to separate herself from Joe Biden. And I understand that's a sticky situation when you are a vice president to somebody, but you can say, hey, we did these good things, but here is what I want to do to improve them even more. But she was incapable of that because they don't have any plans, Steve. Karen Bass doesn't. Kamala Harris doesn't.
And you could just tell when she speaks, I mean, she's got no idea. And we joke about it in terms of word salad. And it is funny and ridiculous. But actually, what's behind that is that she truly has no clue
That's
about
right.
the fundamental questions. Like, what is her actual position on these things? You know, if you ask me a question about an issue, I'll tell you what I think about the issue. I've got an analysis of the problem and what's
Yeah.
gone wrong and how I want to fix it. You may not agree with it, but I can give you substantive replies because I've thought about it and I know where I stand, and I'm not worried about offending people. I'm just going to tell you what I think. She's totally just this sort of classic machine politician. It's all about calculation. What should I say? What's going to get this support? What's not? If I say this, will I offend this person or that person or this constituency or whatever? And this is what you get from these. I always bring it back to one party rule. Next year, it'll be 16 years. We've got to start saying 16 years of one party rule. That's what it'll be next year. And this is what you get after all of that. These machine politicians like Kamala Harris, Karen Bass, Gavin Newsom, they're all the same. They don't stand for anything. Gavin's just sort of better at the performance part of it. That's the only thing that's different about him.
He's got a little bit more of the it factor, but he has no solutions either. And that's one thing I tell people about you all the time, Steve, is that not only do you have a solution and you know what you think about issues, but more than likely you probably already have a policy paper on them. You've thought through all of these issues for California. And so I think you nailed it. Either it's about solving problems or perpetuating problems. And I think California is going to have to decide where we stand. Are we going to perpetuate problems or are we going to solve it? The country has decided with Trump. Look, you may not love every single solution, but you know what? There was a problem with immigration. You may not like what he's done. Maybe you love it. Maybe you're kind of in the middle on it, but he was solving a problem with tariffs. He's solving problems. There's actionable things that today's Democrat Party have gotten away from that. They simply want to keep the problems going because they know they can grow government when they have these problems. And that's exactly what they bank on. And that's what they want for our state and for the country.
That reminds me of something Mrs. Thatcher said back in the day in England. I think she was talking about someone in particular. But it's a very sort of simple and important point, which is, and it totally applies to all this lot, which is, she said, this particular person, he's not running, he's not in politics to do something. He's there to be something. He just wants the job.
That's it.
And that's what they're all like. And that's why it's all such disaster.
And it's totally unfair to the voter. And it's unfair to the taxpayer who they're spending they're on a joyride with our taxpayer dollars. And we deserve some accountability and solutions.
There you are. Exactly. Well, that's what you're going to get from me. Always great to see you, Jen. Thank you so much. Next time, what's it? Next time in Paris or whatever. Next time at the smokehouse.
After hours at the smokehouse. I love it.
Fantastic. All right. See you soon. Wait, am I going to see you before Christmas? I think not.
Friday, right? On the show?
Yes, but like on this show. So I think for
No, so Merry Christmas to you.
Yes, exactly.
And
I'll see you on the radio, AM 870, The Morning Answer, our regular Friday date, 6:50 a.m. But for now, on this show, on the Steve Hilton Show, Merry Christmas, Jen. Have a wonderful
Merry
holiday.
Christmas to you.
All right, as promised, here is the guy who's going to clean up our elections for us. It's a top concern for so many of you. I hear it all the time. What are we going to do about the outrageous cheating and the mess that they've made of our elections here in California? Well, the person who's going to sort that out, Don Wagner, running for Secretary of State of California. He's currently on the board of supervisors of one of our biggest and most important counties, Orange County, where I spend a lot of my time and arguing for common sense there in Orange County. So, Don, great to see you. Tell us a little bit, for those who don't know you, your background, what you're doing, and what you've been engaged in Orange County on the board of supervisors there. Very important position. And then we'll get into Secretary of State, your race, and what you hope to accomplish.
Sure. Well, thank you, Steve. It is a pleasure to be with you. And yes, we welcome you to Orange County anytime you want to come down here. So I've been on the Board of Supervisors since 2019. Before that, I was privileged to serve as both the mayor of Irvine and also up in the state legislature. So I have experience at the state level, I have experience at the municipal level, now at the county level. And I will tell you, this is an absolutely wonderful state. Except for that San Andreas fault, the only thing wrong with this state is bad government. And I've been doing what I can to make it just a little bit better in all of those positions over the course of the last several years. Here in Orange County, among other things, and I know we'll talk about elections because that's so important to all of us. But we've been working on trying to clean up the rolls here in Orange County. We've found voters who are illegal. We have found a dog on our voting rolls, so I'm making
That was an amazing story. I had a lot of fun with that story. And the dog was registered to vote, was sent a ballot, and then my favorite part of that story, if it's the same one we're talking about, was that even after the dog died, the dog was sent a ballot.
Well, the craziest thing is, so after we find out about this, I inquire of our registrar just to know the details. Was the dog a Democrat or Republican? And he told me, well, because of privacy reasons, Supervisor Wagner, I can't tell you that. It's like, it's a dog. It doesn't have privacy rights. It's dead. It's crazy how intrusive the laws are, and they prevent us from cleaning our rolls the way they need to be cleaned.
Can I just ask you about Orange County, for those who aren't familiar, because especially, around the state, I get asked this, and certainly around the country, where Orange County has the reputation as a Republican stronghold. The Orange County Lincoln Club, for example, proudly, says we were the home of the Reagan Revolution and all of that. Proud history in Orange County. Where do things stand now? What's the balance of power on the Board of Supervisors? Tell us about Orange County a little bit.
Well, sadly, Orange County has changed, and that demographic was true back in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, but has absolutely changed, and not for the better. We in Orange County, now we're the third largest county by population in the state, sixth largest in the United States. We have gone from a 5-0 Republican Board of Supervisors over the course of the last decade now to a 3-2 Democrat majority. So I'm in the minority trying to get done things for the people of my district and all of Orange County. But that perception of Orange County as solid red that Ronald Reagan said was, the place where good Republicans go to die, that is no longer true on the ground in Orange County. We have some work to do.
Yes. Well, we all, and I love that you said we, that I very much see that as my role.
Yes.
Obviously, as running for governor, to be there to fight for Republicans at every level, because it's not just one job, it's all of us as a team that are going to turn California around. And that means in the other statewide offices, and we'll get to your race right after this point, but also in the legislature where you were. We've got to elect more Republicans everywhere, and that's how we save our beautiful state. All right, let's talk about the Secretary of State race. What's it all about? And then what can you do as Secretary of State to help clean up our elections?
Well, what's it all about is recognizing that the two main responsibilities of the Secretary of State's office have not been performed competently over the last several years. The first, of course, as we touched on, is elections. And there is no question that regardless of your party, there are doubts about our election system. Now, we saw, as I said, in Orange County, illegal aliens on our rolls. We saw that dog on our rolls. And the question is, how much of that have we uncovered? How much more is there? And then, of course, how much more throughout the state of California is that a problem? And so we hear from our friends on the other side, oh, there's no real proof of fraud, et cetera. Well, we know there is some. What we need to know is how much, and root it all out, because at base, free and fair elections really are the bedrock of this democracy. If you can't trust that the people that are eventually sworn into office are the ones who won the race, then you're going to have a whole lot of distrust for all of government. And really, the question of how big the fraud is almost secondary to the question of lack of confidence. And that's Republicans and Democrats lacking confidence in our election system. That lands at the feet of the Secretary of State. And we'll talk in a minute about what can be done to restore confidence and to fix it. But the other thing, Steve, that folks don't often recognize is the Secretary of State's office is the first stop for anyone who wants to start a business in the state of California. And then every year you've got to go back. You've got to file forms, and there are rules and there are regulations. We need a Secretary of State's office that recognizes this state is not business friendly and will do everything in his power to fix that. Those are some of the things that I intend to focus on as Secretary of State: the election system and making the state more business friendly.
Okay, we'll end with we'll spend some time on elections. That's people are very concerned about that. But I love that you brought up the business time. I mean, I started a business here, a couple of businesses actually, since we've been here since 2012, and I've started businesses in England and here. I've been a small business owner, entrepreneur most of my career. Actually, people know me from the TV, but most of my career has been in business. I was astonished to find that it's harder and more hassle to do it here in California than in England. Ridiculous. And so tell us some of the things that you can do on that to simplify that process.
Well, there are two things. One is, I will tell you, the Secretary of State's office is still in large part running the platform that the last Republican Secretary of State put in place back in the 90s. And so we can upgrade the technology. One of the things California does probably worse than anything, surprisingly, for a state that's got Silicon Valley in it, is technology. We've seen the governor pull the plug on a $500 million project recently, the 911 line. When I was in the legislature, the governor pulled the plug on the state court system computer upgrade. $500 million flushed down the system. The fiscal system was started in 2005. They think by 2033 they'll have all of the state's departments on. Okay, we don't do technology. I want to engage Silicon Valley, and I want to make sure we are as robust technologically so that you can do everything online if you're starting or trying to grow a business, so that you can get the answers to your questions, so that the forms are available, so that you've got, when you call the office, you've got somebody who recognizes that they are a public servant who should be trying to help you start and grow that business. There's a culture change that needs to be done in the Secretary of State's office. The other thing the Secretary can do, and this is something that the incumbent has not been doing at all. You talk about fixing the legislature with more Republicans. You're absolutely right. But until we have a majority, we need somebody who will take the fight to them. I served in the legislature. I've sat through numerous committees where the legislature is considering bills. I want to be a Secretary of State who goes to Sacramento, sits in the elections committee, sits in the business and professions committee, and says, this is a bad bill. You got to stop it. This is how you fix this bill over here. This is what you ought to be doing. Take the fight to the legislators. Let them hear from a constitutional officer. And Steve, if we can win this, you especially, but even a down ballot constitutional office, that's national news. There is a mandate that message gets delivered with.
Is Shirley Weber, she's the incumbent Democrat,
Correct.
is she running again? Is she running for re-election?
She's running for re-election. Gavin Newsom appointed her to Secretary of State. She's running for re-election. And I wouldn't say that she's got a stellar track record.
Exactly. Well, that's right, because was it Padilla was Secretary of State, Alex Padilla?
Right. And then when he became senator, she was appointed by Gavin.
Oh, okay. So now let's get to the election story. So before we get into what you could do about it, just because you spent a lot of time thinking about it, it's such a big word, you know. I mean, the simple term that people use is cheating, right? You hear all the time, they cheat. And then you hear the word fraud. What are the it's not just one problem there. You've touched on voter rolls, but just go through, including on voter rolls. What are the main components of the problems in California with our voting system?
Perhaps the biggest problem is simply that we are awash in ballots. You get mailed a ballot, you're sitting at your house, you're sitting in your apartment, and you've got your ballot, and you probably also got the ballot of the person you bought the house from. You got the ballot of the last 2 or 3 renters in that apartment, because we don't clean the rolls when those are changed. You get the ballot of your kids who maybe have gone off to college or moved out of the county. And so we are absolutely awash in ballots, which, if nothing else, gives people pause. What's happening to those ballots? How easy is it to get your hands on a ballot you're not entitled to? So the first thing, and this is a legislative fix, the Secretary of State can't do this on his own, but we have got to say that was for COVID. Let's roll that back. Let's return to what we did before. Let's do what the majority of states in the United States do, and that is, if you want a ballot, an absentee ballot, ask for one. We'll send you one. But we're not just going to mail you and everybody who ever lived in your house a ballot. So that's the first thing that needs to be done. But the second thing, and perhaps equally important, and this can be done by the Secretary of State, and it can be done by the registrars in the county, and that is get the rolls clean. The Secretary of State has the authority to go in and work with every one of the 58 county registrars, get the dead wood off the ballot. There are a lot of statutory hoops, federal and state, you have to jump through to do that. But do that. Take those steps so that those people who have moved are not getting ballots. And so we know that the folks that are getting the ballots are the ones that are entitled to them. We saw in Orange County, as I mentioned, several illegal aliens, 17 of them self-identified, who were voting. And we recognize that as just the tip of the iceberg. How many more people are there? My belief as Secretary of State is that if you have a right to vote in this election, you should be entitled to vote. And if you don't have a right to vote, get out of our voting booths.
Okay, I want to ask about the just make sure we cover it. You've also got the early voting thing; it goes on forever.
Right.
You've got the
late voting.
The late voting, right? You've got 7 days after the election. You can still time for your ballot to come in. I mean, all of those rules seem insane to people. Again, is that legislation? Is there anything you can do about that?
That is principally legislation. The legislature has said you must open these polling places early. You must allow ballots received 7 days after the election to count, as long as they're postmarked by election day. You've got to count them. And then the real delay is you've got 30 days. You have by 25 days to cure those ballots. The registrars cannot report and the Secretary of State cannot certify until 30 days after the election. We are the last state in the nation to report our election results. That is entirely driven by bad government, bad decisions made at the legislative level. Repeal that, make sure we get all of the votes counted right up front, and report our elections. Because again, the question people ask themselves when they see ballots trickle in and trickle in and trickle in, and then elections flip on the last day or second to last day, then that obviously leads people to question, is this fair? Is this accurate? Eliminate that, and you again eliminate some of the opportunity for folks to question the integrity of our system. We've got to have confidence in our elections.
So what is this curing thing? I mean, what is that all about? What happens in that process?
So that's actually quite an incredible process. When you sign up to vote, you of course have got to have a signature. Now, because our ballots are mostly mailed in, there's our signatures on the envelopes to attest that you are the voter. Now, remember last time you went to a grocery store and you had to sign your name maybe on an electronic keypad. That's how a lot of these original sign-ins are done. Is that a fair representation of your signature? That signature was maybe several years ago. You're now a little bit older, a little bit less firm. You've got to shake your signature. I know that's happening to me. That signature doesn't look like it did many, many years ago. And We are asking our elections officials, as they're counting ballots, to compare in the blink of an eye, because they've got millions of ballots to count, compare that signature on the ballot with the signature on file, flip back one between the other. They will then disallow some ballots because the signatures don't match. The curing period then is when the registrar contacts the voter, says your ballot was disallowed, cure it. Is this you? Give us a good signature. And it's a whole cumbersome process, and it's one that is made necessary by all of those ballots that the state mails to us. Get rid of those ballots. Go back to day of in-person voting, and we will end up getting rid of that cure period and making our elections more safe.
Very important. So the in-person voting combined with voter ID, which we've talked about a lot with Carl Tamayo and others, for the we're trying to get on the ballot for next year. So that's the answer to that, because you go and vote in person, they check your ID right there and then.
Like many other states, like most other countries.
Exactly. I
Yep.
know. That's what I always say. Like, why can't we just do that like pretty much everywhere else in the world, which is, vote on one day, count on one day, get the results on one day, pencil and paper. I mean, it's just like the president says, just old fashioned. Look, that's a sort of major change. But I like the way you frame it, which is what we've got now was supposed to be a one-off for COVID. Let's not let that become the norm. Can I go back to the voter rolls thing, because there's a lot of news around that keeps popping up, and I just want you to sort of bring us up to speed on what's happening. You've got Shiloh Marks, who's out there. He's been a guest on this show, who's been posting numbers showing that county by county voters in large numbers are coming off the rolls who shouldn't be there. Names are coming off the rolls who shouldn't be there, like up to over 2 million, I think, in the last year or so. Then you've got federal lawsuits, Harmeet Dillon and her team suing California, demanding thing. What's the latest? Just what is happening in relation to voter rolls right now?
Well, the good news, I guess, is that people like Shiloh Marks and you and me, as I'm out on the campaign trail, are shining a light on the issue, and it is lighting a little bit of a fire under some of the registrars to take the steps that they are allowed to take under federal and state law to clean the rolls. There was a lawsuit several years ago in Los Angeles. They determined that in Los Angeles, they had more voters on the rolls than they had human beings living in Los Angeles. So there is a problem there, and we've got to start getting those folks off the rolls, because if nothing else, they're getting ballots mailed to them, and some of them maybe have been dead for 20 years. And so there is progress being made there. Harmeet Dillon has sued a number of jurisdictions in California, including Orange County, to get information about our rolls. Now, to go back to the question of the partisan breakdown of my board, I brought a motion in front of my board to cooperate completely with the Department of Justice. I'll take anybody's help who wants us to clean our rolls. And my board voted it down 3-2, the 3 Democrats versus the 2 Republicans. And so we are continuing to stonewall the federal government. We are continuing to hide behind so-called California privacy laws, which apparently also protect a dead dog. And it is just absolutely absurd. But the federal government is looking into this. I've voted to cooperate because I want the help in cleaning our rolls. We are making progress. It is unfortunately slow.
But it is true to say, as Shiloh's been pointing out, is it, that a large number have been removed, but there's still further to go? Is that really the accurate summary?
It is an accurate summary, and I'll give you some numbers out of Orange County. We were able to remove last year over 100,000 voters. We have over 1 million registered, but we were able to remove 100,000. Now that tells me, I mean, that's a little. It was a little less than 1/10 of the voters. That tells me there's a problem, and the year before, we only removed about half as many. Why? Because it was an election year, and in election years, the state and the federal government both prohibit the registrars from tinkering with the election rolls a given period of time before an election. And so there is progress being made, but there's much more that needs to be done. For example, there is a national change of address database, zip code database. You can tell people, the government, when you move. And California, one of the few states in the nation that is not part of that database. Why? We should be part of the database so that when people move, our registrar, our Secretary of State gets that information and we can remove people from the rolls. A lot of work left to be done. But Shaila's right, some progress has been made.
So the final question I've got is about that local administration of all this. Just talk about that, because one point that stuck in my mind from my conversations with Susan Shelley, who's Orange County Register, Southern California News Crew. I'm sure you know each other. So she points out that one of the other bad things that's happened is the kind of centralization of voting and the tabulation and so on, away from precincts towards these big centralized vote centers that mean that it's just incredibly bureaucratic and much harder and more expensive to get recounts and all of that. Is that a statewide thing, or is that pushed by individual registrars? And who are these registrars? Are they appointed by the Board of Supervisors? What's that all about?
So the short answer is yes, that move away from precincts is driven at the state level by state legislation. And some of the smaller counties in this state, I don't know, I will look this up. Some of the smaller states have some opportunities to around the margins to get out of it. But the larger state counties like Orange County, we are locked in. These are the rules we have to follow by state law. And that is one of the things that should be changed by the legislature, and that the Secretary of State can have a very outsized voice in trying to get changed. But that is at this point a state-driven challenge.
And the registrars?
Yeah, the registrars are all appointed by, in Orange County and most of the big counties at least, appointed by the boards of supervisors, and they are the senior election officials in the county. They don't report to the Secretary of State, but the Secretary of State's office is legally charged with a significant amount of oversight, and also just an opportunity that I would exercise as Secretary of State to work with them, to get in their offices, to say, what are best practices? Here's what needs to be done. Here's how you can make your roles better. And when they're not doing it, if they're not doing it, shine a light on them.
Fantastic. Well, look, I think you and I are going to have a lot of work to do when I'm governor and you're Secretary of State. We're going to have to really push this legislation. We've got to be really clear about what our goals are. You've laid them out here with a comprehensive plan. We got to have change. So I'm very excited that you're running. You got a lot of experience that you can bring to the table here, and that is fantastic for all of us. So last thing, John, just tell everyone where they can find you, support your campaign, and all of that.
The website is simple. It is Wagner, Wagner, Wagner for California, FOR, not the number 4, WagnerForCalifornia.com.
Fantastic. We love it. Good luck, and I'll see you very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, and good luck to you. We have a state to fix.
All right, that is our show for this week and for this year. So I'm going to say, just as I did to Jen, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Next year is going to be an amazing year, the year that we save our beautiful state of California. We've got some fantastic plans for the new year, so make sure you follow us, follow the campaign. You can get involved at stevehilton4governor.com. We just had a wonderful meeting with our volunteer army that's taking shape. Love you to be part of that. If you haven't supported the campaign yet, please do so. There's a very important fundraising deadline at the end of the year. So anything you can do to help me right now would be much appreciated. stevehilton4governor.com. And of course, follow this show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. As I said, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. See you in January.